pastor's facade and a family's struggle.
Lois, you're my daughter and you're my side. You know you're my right arm, and I need you, and I need your husband right now. You can't get in the way. Don't get in the way. Just trust God. Just trust God. Your father has been there from your birth. I've shielded you. You've been in and out of the United States. You've been shielded all your life.
It was you that we needed shielding from, I thought. I was born on the run. Much of my childhood was spent in anticipation for the next time we would have to grab what we could and move quickly. The story is that my father was in fear for his life, so he fled Detroit and moved to Logan, West Virginia when my mother was pregnant with me. I was the only one of my siblings born outside of Detroit, which explains why I've always felt displaced.
The devil has tried to kill us all because of this gospel. That is a reason why your mother got shot and all that. We had been in the church for years and years. We'd been saved for years and years when your mama got shot. The devil has always tried to kill me and kill my children. Look at Harold Jr. He is a space cadet. Look at Doc. I'm not talking about him. No, I'm not talking about neither one of them. But I'm telling you, you and Trey, and you know Mike is halfway sane, chain-smoking reefer. You know what I mean. But I don't know if he stopped or not. But I'm saying I only got 2 really sane children. The devil has fought this family madly. Madly.
The devil? I'm not sure the devil is to blame here, I thought. Mike is the oldest and has a different biological father than the rest of us, but Pastor raised him. We're 9 years apart, so I have few memories of us growing up together, but I remember him taking care of me. He joined the Army as soon as he graduated high school and wasn't really welcome to come around anymore. Harold Jr. is my father's first biological son and his namesake. Well, not anymore. He changed his name and walks around in a crown and white robe. That alone should give you an indication of his state of mind. Ray, Doc, is next in line. He's the golden child, the favorite of all of us, and is supposedly my father's successor for the church. He's also the only one of us who wants it. Next is me. Then there's Trey. He's the youngest and the super soldier of the bunch. I was a strong, feisty little girl and a bit of a rebel. My father and I bumped heads from time to time, but at my core I was a daddy's girl. I adored my father, at least I tried to, but we had more than a few disagreements. I was protective of my brothers. I was their advocate, their voice. The abuse that my father inflicted on me was nothing compared to what he did to them. They were no match for him. They had been repeatedly beaten into submission growing up, and psychological abuse was routine. He'd whip us with extension cords, kick us, he even hung my brothers up by their hands and beat them. As the saying goes, preachers' kids are the worst ones. That's because people don't know what some of us have been through, what we've witnessed, what we've heard, and what we've endured. People didn't know that behind closed doors, Pastor was a terror. When he was at home, he was abusive, reclusive, uninvolved, and unloving. He would watch TV in his room for hours, only interacting when he wanted a plate, a grape soda over butter pecan ice cream, or his nightly baking soda and water mixture, or when he was disciplining us. There was something glamorous about the first family. There were certain privilege that came with the role. My father was attentive in front of others, acknowledged and nurtured our talents, but in a perverse, calculated, and self-serving way. He didn't show genuine interest in our interests, and he didn't promote what didn't benefit him. Everything he did was outside of the home and more important, demanding, and purposeful than us. He didn't view his family as his first ministry, his primary purpose, or his obligation. In fact, he viewed us as a burden, and he made that clear by how he treated us. I can remember the times he took us skating, bike riding, and other activities he did with us kids. But there was an overcast. I never felt genuine joy or happiness. My father didn't regularly attend sporting events, social events, or ceremonies. He didn't show up for his family, and he didn't even show up for his grandkids to simply support. Everything he did was for a reason. Experiences were tainted by my father's ulterior motives. We always had to look and play the part. At times I had to be fake. No one is in good spirits all the time. No one can live a facade all the time. It's true that we live our lives under a microscope. Every move we make is not only judged by God, but everyone else too. People assume that we have super protection from all of life's crap and temptations. There is a certain unwanted responsibility that comes with being a preacher's kid. For some of us, it's all we can do to break free of that weight. My father used our childhood experiences to highlight aspects of his message. At times it bothered me because it would cause undue pressure and attention on me. When he would talk about me, the whole congregation would look at me. He loved the attention, but it made me uncomfortable because he would tell stories that were sensitive, embarrassing, or outright lies. He never cared if that singled us out from other kids or how these stories affected our friendships. He often tortured us under the facade of play, but it only felt like play to him. His play was our punishment, a torment that we couldn't deter. He had a terrible foot fungus and a pungent foot odor, and he loved to throw his dirty socks at our faces at the end of a long day. He would ball them up and aim right at our heads. It was like he scored extra points for himself if the socks hit us in the face, but any headshot would make him laugh so loud and obnoxiously that it would make us laugh too. It was almost as if we had to laugh to stop him from laughing at us. He would cough up the most disgusting-sounding mucus spitball, then spit it out the car window while driving, and wouldn't even do us the courtesy of telling us to duck. He would laugh when the wind blew his spit back into our faces. We got sprayed until we wised up and started ducking every time he let the window down and every time he took his socks off. Then that became the game, to make us flinch as he continuously faked threw his dirty socks at us. My father would call us dummy or stupid, but it was less about his words and more about the delivery. This was a mental game so interwoven into my way of relating that I did it to my own children. My father got a job working security at a hospital in Atlanta. He would tell us stories about unruly patients he encountered. He said he had to use self-defense tactics on them when they were non-compliant. He would come home and teach us those supposed self-defense tactics, but he was really just practicing on us. It was just another way of abusing us. If he felt that we were getting the upper hand, he would punish us by getting aggressive and using street fighting movements. He perceived any level of proficiency as a threat. He seemed to enjoy having these encounters with patients as much as he enjoyed them with us. He made jokes about the mental health patients he had to subdue. It would sometimes turn into a fight on his end. Just like with us, we couldn't fight back, but we weren't trying to. We were his crash test dummies, his guinea pigs. He used all his tactics on us, perfected them at our expense. I could opt out. My gender protected me. I learned to play the fragile role to protect myself, but my brothers didn't have that same option. But that tactic didn't work for me all the time. My father loved reaching back from the front seat as my mother was driving and tickle us kids, except he would tickle us so hard that it hurt. He only did this when we were in the car, when we were trapped. We'd all try to move our legs when he reached back, but whoever sat in the middle seats were the unlucky ones, usually the youngest of us, me. There was no way I could get away when he escalated to scratching and pinching, as he often did. His nails were always so strong and sharp. I asked him to stop and attempted to block him, but he got more aggressive, as he often did. I believe it was my screams to stop that made him snap. It hurt. Kicking and screaming was my only defense. This time, it angered him. My protests made him mad, but I didn't know just how enraged he was becoming. He wouldn't stop, and I continued to resist. I was moving my legs, blocking, kicking, and screaming at him to stop. When I told him it hurt, it just seemed to hurt more. That was often the case. He could switch from laughing to attacking at the drop of a hat. There was rarely a traceable escalation. He could snap without warning. Then he just stopped and told me to get out of the car with him. As I extended my leg out of the car, my father grabbed it, pulled it, and slammed my leg in the door. I don't remember the pain, I just remember screaming. As he walked away, Mother said, shut up, Lois." I had to squelch my outcry before my father returned. Rage-filled spurts marked my childhood. Then Pastor would get completely calm as if nothing happened. I learned to be rigid, emotionless, on guard, unaffected outwardly, but in absolute turmoil internally. He taught me a valuable lesson that day. If you dare to speak up against me, I'll hurt you. My father's violence was escalating. He appeared enraged, yet I saw him laugh as he beat and kicked us, even bucking at us with an extension cord as he tried to make contact with our skin before we flinched excited him. But it was when my father hit Trey with that belt buckle that left a bloody gash across his nose that I knew it was only a matter of time before he would kill one of us. He told us to say that my brother was hit in the face while playing football, but Pastor was in one of his all-too-familiar rages. That's when I knew I had to report him. My father's rage was too great to continue to remain silent. After that incident, my father started hitting us on the inside of our hands with an extension cord. He was getting smarter, finding sneakier ways of concealing his abuse. He asserted that hitting us on our hands wouldn't leave a mark, and he paid careful attention not to hit us past our wrists. It was equally as painful. He would grunt as he hit us, which seemed to give him an extra boost that made each strike more painful while exciting him even more. The sound he made as he hit us is burned into my eardrum. We couldn't endure the abuse any longer. We were no match for him, and unless I spoke up, it would worsen. I felt that I had no choice but to report him, so I called a sibling meeting. I informed 3 of my brothers of my intention to report my father for child abuse, which I did. Our case was turned over to the German courts to litigate and possibly mediate. And the next day, Trey and I were removed from my parents' home and placed in a German group home.
It's time for you to stand your ground. Stand your ground, unmovable, faithful, trusting everything. Don't worry about stuff. Don't worry about junk. Don't worry about junk. Just do your part and leave the rest to the Lord. The Lord will totally heal your body. He would totally heal your body. You won't have no pain, fibromyalgia, and all this stuff. You'll still have it on paper. But God will heal you. He will deliver you. He will deliver you, and you can walk through. You won't even believe.
His tone was calm, but his words were becoming aggressive, intimidating, and threatening. His reactions were exaggerated, and he felt that my leaving was a personal attack on him. He was condemning me and my family and suggesting demons possessed me because he wasn't getting his way. There was no distinction to him. Leaving his church meant that I was abandoning him as my father. Cutting ties with the church is like being dead to him, but I couldn't stay. How could I possibly stay? We were willing to let him maintain the facade, but we wanted no parts of it. Still, I wanted to leave quietly, not stir up commotion, and move on with my father's blessing, but his lack of self-control and anger took over. It's no wonder I'm sick. My father is a narcissistic pastor. Witnessing his manipulation and control of the church and the members was beyond what I could endure, and I began having flashbacks of his violence toward my mother, brothers, and me. Even as my father preached, I would have frequent panic attacks, intense abdominal pain, and headaches. What was happening to me, though unexplainable, was real. My body, my mind, and my spirit were evidence of it. Being there wasn't worth the effect it was having on my health, marriage, and children. We were willing to adopt the narrative that we weren't being spiritually fulfilled, disagreed with the direction my father was taking the church, and thought it best to move on. But it was much worse. He'd say, "It ain't nothing but the devil." No, it was my father. I could trace everything back to his toxic behavior. So her villain. Have you ever loved someone who also left a scar on your heart? For so many daughters, the person they look up to as their hero has also caused them the deepest pain. Dear sister, your pain is valid and your experience matters. You are more than the weight of your struggles. There are many like you, and together we stand stronger. Healing doesn't mean erasing the past. It means reclaiming your power step by step. Let this be the moment you choose yourself. You are not alone. Lean into this shared sisterhood. Comment, "I choose to heal" if you're ready to start your journey, and let's walk this path together.